This was a little fun video that I decided to do because of the fact that a lot of people think that the new map, or at least the demo version of the map, is a lot smaller than what the devs told us it would be, and so I decided to do 3 runs from the waypoint to my personal waypoint on the map. Each one had a different setting on it for speed buff wise. The first run, which you can see first, is going to be no buffs, no swiftness, no nothing. Sadly, there was a revenant that was standing right next to the bridge, so I had to keep redoing the first section and until I could figure out how to avoid the revenant that was standing there, who was pulsing out swiftness. It was a little bit annoying because I think I had to redo this section 3 or 4 times. So you can see in the background now I'm doing this weird roundabout thing, which adds a couple seconds onto it because the revenant is standing just off screen to the left. And I did not want to get that swiftness because it wouldn't be a true no buff run then. And this run took me about 3 minutes. I did end up crippled near the end of it, and I left it in because at that point I knew that revenant was just kind of camping there, so I didn't want to keep redoing it to avoid the swiftness and then try to avoid the cripple. The cripple added, I think, maybe a second or 2 onto it, so it's about a 3-minute 30-second run to get from the waypoint to the far side of the map where my personal waypoint was, even with a little bit of being added into combat. Basically speaking, I really just wanted to see how much bigger this map was compared to the other maps, and this is about a fourth to a half of the map, give or take, from the demo to the map that we're actually going to get, and it is massive. I didn't even count starting in the water. One, the Raptor doesn't work in water, so it wouldn't be a true mount, no buff run. The buff would work in the water that I was going to run with, but not the mount, so I decided to start at the waypoint. And the vast majority of this video, as you can see, is going to be running from the waypoint to my personal waypoint without any buffs. It is a good 3-minute run, and it just goes to show how much larger these maps are. It takes about, as a close call there thing, it takes about 3 minutes to run from one end of Fireheart Rise to the other end to get into either Iron Marches or Frostgorge Sound. So that just shows how massive these maps are. If it takes about 3-4 minutes if you don't get into combat and you have a speed buff on to get there, and it takes you 3 minutes to run here, goes to show. It could be a little bit more than 3 minutes. I didn't exactly time myself. I was kind of distracted when I was running through Fireheart, but it was a fairly quick run through Fireheart with my speed buff on. It was 3 minutes. So given that, you can see how much more massive these maps are compared to the others. I kind of glided there. Sorry about that. I realized it and jumped off. I sometimes hold my spacebar a little bit too long. And as you can see, I did get in combat, which kind of upset me because I didn't want to be in combat. It slows me down. But I was so close to the waypoint at that point that I decided leave it in. And I have to battle these guys because I need to waypoint back, so I didn't edit that out because I thought it was just kind of fun, and you guys get to see a little bit of the Sand Lion in combat if it would decide to come back to fight the shark and not the guy that I don't want to fight. And I love the Sand Lion, by the way. It gives a blind, which is also a little help for a CC. And it didn't take me that long to get out of combat, which was a good thing. And I kind of was talking here to you guys. I said, okay, now buff. So I'm going to add my 25% speed buff on that a ranger gets. That's the reason why I really wanted to do this on a ranger, is instead of using swiftness, I had a 25% speed buff. So why not? And that way we get to show off a little bit of the Sand Lion. And now here's the run with the 25% speed buff. As you can tell, it's a lot faster. This one I think took about 2 minutes, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. And we just do the same run. The Revenant was still there, so I still had to do that weird wonky runaround thing to avoid swiftness on top of my speed buff, because otherwise it still wouldn't be considered a true just buff run. And I would rather just have my Signet, and I kind of had hit a wall there. It's like, whoops, that added a second on. I wanted just to show how much the devs put effort into making this map a lot larger and how much faster the mount makes you run.
Quick, everyone out of the fields.
Oh no.
So that is the main reason why this video happens. I try very hard to stay on the same path. This time I kind of sort of went around the mobs, so it wasn't exactly the same path, but it was close enough that I counted it, because again I had to do a weird wonky thing where I went around the guys that got me in combat the first time. With the mount I did a little bit more of a straightforward one because it's a mount. You can easily get past the mobs on your mount, but we'll see that when the mount actually happens. As you can currently see though, we are running a lot faster with that 25% speed buff, and so the map is basically being torn away pretty quickly. And I did the no buff one for guys like warriors who don't have a speed buff. I get that they have a lot of weapons that can buff their speed, such as using your 2 and 5, or is it 3 and 5 on your greatsword, or using one of your banners to get swiftness, but it's not a permanent speed buff, and if you don't time it right, you can end up running out of your buffs fairly quickly. You can also use sword 2 on a warrior, and you also have the slowness of, say, a guardian, who also doesn't have a permanent speed buff. They have a lot of things that give them swiftness, but they don't have a permanent speed buff, and their greatsword is nowhere near as good as the warriors for long-term running. It does have a leap in it, which is super nice, and I think a couple of their other weapons might have a slight leap, but don't count me on that. I don't play a lot of guard. You can see here I go over the one of the guys there, and I do glide a little bit again, mainly to avoid fall damage, but I didn't add a speed buff onto my... I didn't lean glide, so it meant that I was still going about as fast as I would normally. And now I say, okay, now mount run. And you can see a little bit that I went a little bit off track with the previous one just to avoid combat. It adds, I think, actually about the same amount of time. And I show again, we're going from the waypoint to my waypoint, just this time on a mount. And the mount I actually go way off track by mistake. Well, not really way off track by mistake, because it's a lot easier to take a direct route because you have the mount's leap. Also, swiftness does not affect mounts, so I can run just straight by the herald. Plus, I couldn't fit through the little tiny gaps, so there was no way that that was going to happen. But as you can see, we are moving a lot faster. This one is going to take us maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes max, if that. You really get the scope of how large this map is when you try to run on foot, with a buff on foot, and then with your mount using the leap skill. It is a massive map, and we only have a portion of it currently. I'm glad that they gave us so much of the map that they did, because it might make it feel small because we're on a raptor for the most part. We get the raptor right off the bat, but we needed that raptor right off the bat. It is a very massive map, and I am very glad that I went and did this the last day that the map was available to us in the demo, because I really wanted to see for myself the scope of this map, see how fast it goes to run on the raptor versus not running on the raptor versus having a buff versus not having a buff. And since I am planning on playing Ranger, Necromancer, and Revenant, the Revenant is losing its swiftness come the time that we get the Renegade. We won't have our perma-swiftness, so this really allowed us to see the difference between all of it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I shall see you in the next one. Also, please tell me what you guys think of the raptor run and all of this. Was it worthwhile? Did it show you how massive this map is? I look forward to hearing your opinions in the comment section down below. Again, thank you so much for watching. As I trace the line here and screw up and hit the key. And yes, you can see I went a little bit off there.